Don't drink dirty water. You get in life what you create. Expectation drives the creative process. Oh, this, damn. Well, I'm talking right directly to him. What do you expect? You expect whatever it is you're thinking about. Your thought process, the conversation in your head, is at the base of the results you create in life. So the question really is, what are you thinking about? What is influencing and directing your thoughts? The answer, whatever you're allowing yourself to hear and see. This is the input you are feeding into your brain, period. And it actually says, period, in the book. I don't know if y'all can see that. It literally says, period. All right, y'all. I feel like some people don't know how to read.
Let's bring them to the books by starting. Y'all can't read.
Yeah, illiterate motherfucker. No, I do feel like that, but that is okay because now there's a thing called an audible book. You don't have to read.
Okay, good save.
I read somewhere that Warren Buffett, or is it Warren Buffett? Or no, what's that other rich man?
Jimmy Buffett.
No, fool.
Sorry.
What is your problem?
Bill Gates?
Bill Gates. You knew I was talking about Bill.
I'm just messing with
DeVon. Bill Gates reads like 20 to 30 books. No, not a month.
A year. Yeah, it's a year.
Is it a year? Yeah, I think it's like.
It's probably more than that.
I think it's like 1 or 2 a month. So.
'Cause I read like 3 or 4 a month.
Listen to. I know we just said that.
Okay, but what's the difference? Actually, I read faster than I listen to. Thank you very much. Yes, I do. I'm a bad man.
The one book that you read over the last 4 years is not gonna cut it. It's time to really tap in, get an Audible account, and also another fun teaching moment. It's library.
There's an R.
There's
after that.
Yeah.
I'll just say it after the B.
Yeah, because I hear a lot of library.
Libraries. What type of berry y'all eating, huh?
Yeah, library. We're gonna get into our top 21 book recommendations to heal, grow, make money, step into your purpose, and start creating your reality. These books are very, very transformational. You have been warned. Do not read them if you don't want to experience some growth in your life.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't do that to yourself.
This is for you, my number one.
I am Micah the Maven, and if you are new here, I'm hella happy to see you. If you are returning, hey friend. This is my brother. He's back for another video, and we are going to be doing what, DeVon?
A book review.
I personally think these are books that will help with anyone that's doing some insightful, just like work on themselves and wanting to see a difference in their reality based on how they show up. Granted, I just kind of got into reading like the last 3 years, I think. I was big on reading in school, but it was just to get the job done. Like, it wasn't like I was reading.
You had to read.
Yeah, I had to read then. I was assigned to read then. But most recently, definitely just like reading a little bit more for myself. It has become very pleasurable. So, what about you?
Yeah, for me, it's really, I used to read a lot when I was younger. I was big into the Harry Potter series and Goosebumps and just little fun reads like that.
So you like fictional?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and as I got older.
I feel like when you're a kid, that's pretty much all you're reading.
Oh yeah, for sure. When I got older, I was still into fiction, Angels and Demons and the Da Vinci Code, things like that. But
yeah,
now that I'm getting more into my career, I'm definitely more leaning towards the business and self-development, personal development type books. And I find those are just as fun too. You can find some that really are written in a way where you don't necessarily feel like I'm doing work at the moment, where you're reading a story and you're having fun, so.
I agree, 110%. I have got a few of my recommendations from DeVon, and they have been really, really good. I know right now you recommended The Compound Effect.
Absolutely.
For the time that I'm in my life, and so I just recently bought that, and I will be starting it very, very soon. But I wanted him to share some of his recommendations with all of you because I feel like they can definitely help you guys out. And what's your audiobook platform of choice?
Man, at first it was whoever had the free trials and I could get as many books as I can. But you know how we do. But no, I actually like my library. My library.
Like Apple?
No. My local library. And they have an
my old technology ass. I said, Apple, my library. This man's talking about the actual library. Okay.
Yeah, the library has an online platform to where you can go out and you can rent up to 5 books at a time via audiobook. And that's a direct rental. I don't have to go to the library. So I get a lot done that way. But for paid subscription, it's mostly Audible.
Okay, bet. All right, well, let's get into it. If you want any more information about the books, all the links will be in the description box below, and you can get them via my Amazon store. So yeah, let's get into it.
Well, the first one, I guess, and this is the first one on the list, but I do have to...
So no particular order. This isn't like the best book.
No. It's just the first one on the list, but it is one of the most highly recommended books that I've come across. People from all different backgrounds, all different industries, all different walks of life have recommended this, and I believe you've even heard of How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yes.
Tell me what you've heard about it.
I've heard that it is a necessity because some people just don't know how to go about cultivating like relationships and like working them almost. So I heard it was very good for that. And then it was recommended to me just for the lifestyle that I have as far as networking and influencing buyer personas, things like that. Like I heard it was valuable, but.
Absolutely, that's essentially it. It's really a deep dive and an understanding of how to cultivate relationships that are beneficial for everybody. You know, it's one thing when you've got a relationship where it's take, hey, I want this from you, but you really learn to influence people when you can show them what's in it for them to be involved with you. So it was a great read. It was one of the ones that I read more recently. It was on my list for a while. I'm really glad I got to it at the time that I did because I'm at a part in my career where networking is huge.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, absolutely. Just
same.
Networking events, just even just the way you relate to people online, just the way you develop those relationships. If you're tactful about it, you can really have an impact on how that relationship plans out long term. So.
Absolutely.
Oh, number 2 was one that was this was a fun one because it had a lot of exercises involved in it. It's called Emotional Intelligence 2.0.
Love books that include that type of stuff.
Absolutely.
That's why I like hardcover books and actually like the physical book. One, because I want to build out a library in my house that is a really dope bookshelf. We'll talk about that later. 2, because some books come with exercises in them. So you're saying Emotional Intelligence 2.0 comes with the actual work?
So what it actually comes with is it comes with a key that you will get to log in online and do your emotional intelligence assessment.
Oh, like Cliff Notes or Cliff's Strength Finders.
Yes. Like so it's like that, and this is the cool thing. So you read the book and you actually take your assessment at the beginning of the book, and it kind of dives into some different areas for you of strength and weakness, and then it allows you to re-log in and take that assessment 6 months later after you've done a little bit of work on your skills. And I was pretty pleased to go through and find some areas that I would like to improve on. I can't remember them specifically off the top of my head, but I found some areas, and I went through and I took that assessment 6 months later, and it was very helpful for me to see growth. And by the time you do it 6 months later, you've forgotten about that or other tests. So it was really, really organic to go through and do the second test and see like, oh, the things I've been working on the past 6 months, they actually grew. So yeah. The next one was one that I continue to talk to you about, and you are going to pick it up and read it probably as one of your next few books, is The Way of the Superior Man. And why do I mention that as a book for you? One, it's more for the men any man that you meet in your life needs to read this book, because this book really, really changed the way that I relate to my wife and relate in my relationship. And how do I jump into it? I guess because
the waves.
Yeah,
that's the only note.
The waves. Okay,
that's
all
all
right.
we need.
I guess the waves analogy they gave was, men are very rigid creatures. We're very logical thinkers in the way that we operate. And the book broke it down. One of the examples they gave is women as being emotional creatures is like being a wave in the ocean, the waves in the ocean, and how you're gonna go nuts trying to ride all the different waves in the ocean. And as a man, how you need to be more solid and more firm. And don't go with the woman's waves and emotions. Let her emotions come and go. You need to be the stable force in her life that really kind of stabilizes those waves and calms the ocean. So I know I didn't say that well, but there's a bunch of gems like that in the book that really made that one, it changed my relationship, so.
Yeah.
And that one I actually got off of Nipsey Hussle's big book list.
Yes, a few of these I think are on Nipsey Hussle's big book list, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I pretty much everything on that list I went and got. So the next one is actually the book that I just recommended for you, The Compound Effect. And that one I would say, well, explain to me what we were talking about yesterday, and I'll tell you why I recommended that book.
Okay, so I told him that I was in a very transformational space in my life when it comes to just my career, relationships, and just like adulting, and I just feel a big change coming. And so I needed something that was going to give me that extra like motivational push to just like not give up right now, because stuff feels different and weird, but to actually like ride the wave of this transformation and make the most out of it. And then that's when he was like, oh, bet. The compound effect, that's what you need. So I'm like, are you sure? And let me tell you the reason why. And it's so funny because he knows me so well. Because when I saw the book, I was just like, this basic looking book, the branding is so subpar. It's very cut and dry. And he was like, I can tell that you're a little apprehensive because of the branding of the book. I was like, well, yeah, it's not pulling me in.
There's nothing exciting that jumps out about the book in terms of its presentation, but the material contained in The Compound Effect, I do believe it's something that if you're looking for that thing to get you over the hump, that book is one that is a great read. It really helps me to understand the value of just keep on going.
Yeah.
The value of just keep on going. And there's this one example that they have. I'm not sure if it's in this book or if I was speaking to somebody about it, but it's almost like pumping water in a well. You know, and a lot of times when you're pumping that water in the beginning, you're working really, really hard. You're working your arm off. But what's happening on the bottom part is that pressure's building up.
Yeah.
And that water is coming up to the top, even though we don't really see the results in the beginning.
Yeah.
But you know what? A lot of people, they do is they pump and they stop before the water gets to the top.
Yeah.
So they feel like that work was pointless and that work was useless. But what happens if you keep on pumping, you'll slowly start to see water trickle out of the top of that well.
Yep.
And before long, you've got a whole flow of water. And that's really when you actually don't even have to pump as hard to get your water going. And that's really one of the lessons that I took from The Compound Effect. So in terms of what you were talking about, I thought it was a great read. I think once you dive into it, you won't put it down.
Yeah, and it's a fairly small book, and I'm a fast reader, so I don't think it'll take me that long to read it. I plan on reading it this week, so we'll see how it goes. Next up on the list, number 5. We were in Barnes & Noble's, and when you showed me this book on the shelf, and you said that it was made to look like an Apple product, it literally blew my mind. First of all, the fact that I didn't see that already. Second of all, the fact that it literally looks like when this book is placed on a shelf, it looks like a MacBook box is up there, and I just feel like that is. So without further ado, number 5 is
Steve Jobs. And that was by Walter Isaacson. That was a really fun read, especially for people that grew up in the Bay Area and would be familiar with a lot of the references in that book. It was fun for that side, but then also as somebody that grew up during the rise of Apple, but watching during Steve Jobs introducing the iPhone and the iPad and all of these different just kind of things that we were able to live through, seeing the other side of that and hearing the story behind that was just eye-opening. And this was probably one of the most fun reads I have on this list, was the Steve Jobs book.
I just checked that one out. No, he's a marketing like extraordinaire, and just, yeah. I mean, I'm an Apple fanatic. Like, I'm one of the customers that he thought about was going to connect their music to their laptop, to their phone, to their this, to their that. And I just fell right in, hook, line, and sinker. So since I've fallen victim to Mr. Steve Jobs, I probably should read that book.
You'll see how much of a visionary he actually is. Like, it sounds like it, but then when you actually read the book, he did a lot more than even most of us recognize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 6.
Next one is Principles by Ray Dalio. And honestly, in terms of the books on this list and the impact they've had, this is probably one of the most impactful, insightful books that I've ever read. I literally was taking notes the entire way through, and it really talks about just some great principles to live by and why it's important to live your life by principles. But Ray Dalio in particular is a very, very successful entrepreneur, investor, just a resume a mile long. And he has this concept in there, the main concept that I took away is called radical open-mindedness. And pretty much that is being open to any kind of feedback, regardless of how it is presented to you, but really taking that feedback for the substance of what it is, as opposed to, oh, this person said something that way, so I don't want to hear it, you know?
I.e. Kevin Samuels.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll save that for another video, because I know how you girls like to tussle. But we support the Godfather on this side of the earth, okay?
I admit, I'm a believer.
But no, I love that idea though, that theology of like radical open-mindedness. I feel like I've adopted a lot of that recently.
You have, for sure.
I really have, and I think it's just because of like seeing how quickly we lost Kevin Samuels and like seeing how quickly things can change.
Yeah.
I'm just like, why am I being so, like I know everything?
Well, I mean, most people are not great communicators.
Yeah.
And there's so much value lost in just the communication aspect that if you become a little bit more thick-skinned and learn how to look through the delivery of the message to the actual message, you get a lot more value in that sense. But it also has to be with somebody you trust.
Exactly, absolutely.
The next one, what I believe was one that you mentioned you wanted to talk a little bit about, and that was?
Number 7, the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. He is kind of along the lines of Gary Vee.
Oh, okay.
And I was referred this book by one of my older clients, and we were talking about just like brand outreach, and this is when I was doing a lot of influencer management, and she was like, the 10X Rule, it really, kind of like all these books, they're kind of all saying the same thing in the sense of like, go hard. You can set the tone, you can create your reality, like open your mind, shift your perspective, go hard, da, da, da. But 10X really is that. It's talking about literally doing something 10 times how you were doing it before. So if you were reaching out to 10 brands a week before, maybe you should be reaching out to 100 brands a week and you'll see the difference in the success that you reach actually. So it's really a numbers game. She referred that book to me. I still have to read it, eek. But just off of that explanation and that example that she gave me, I've been like, okay, I need to go 10 times harder.
There we go.
So that's number 7, the 10X Rule. Number 8.
Number 8 was another really fun read. There's a couple autobiographies I read this year that I just thought were fantastic. And one was Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. And when it comes to just understanding the story of one of the world's biggest corporations and how much they struggled in the beginning and were almost swallowed alive by the competition in the beginning, and the story of perseverance and really understanding how business runs, this was such a fun read. I mean, I'm an athlete, so of course I'm interested and love the story of Nike, but he was an excellent writer. I thought he told the story very well, and if you're a sneakerhead, you would absolutely love this story.
What do you get from it though? Because like, I mean, we all kind of know a little bit about Nike, but because I know you had said that I remind you of some of the things in that. So like, what did you mean by that?
So there's a lot of different, I think with you, it really is about the perseverance and the instinct to always find a way through. And that was the aspect from you that kind of made me think this is something that you would really resonate with. But Shoe Dog itself, what I got from that mostly was, it was a business book to me ultimately. And it was a business book showing how Nike was formulated, the things, I mean, they went into great detail about the financial struggles of Nike when they almost went bankrupt, and they really jumped into a lot of different aspects of running Nike in the beginning before it was ever Nike. It was actually called Blue Ribbon. And really just that was, so for me, it was more of a insight to say, hey, business is not easy. Business, there are ups and downs, and really to run a ship, especially as that ship gets bigger, you have to have a captain with vision. And I thought Phil Knight was a great example of that.
Yeah. Number 9, moving right along.
No, so number 9 is one, I want to say I've read it before, but I don't remember it, and I'm terrible about this is such a highly recommended book that I feel terrible about that, but it's been on both of our lists. It's called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I know this is a book like recommendation, but it's a recommendation regardless, because I know there's some gems in there. It's written by Stephen Covey, and I did get a chance to read a book by his son, Franklin Covey, called The Speed of Trust, which that book was really good, and there was a great conversation between the two at the end. And hearing the conversation between Stephen and his son, oh my gosh, those are just, I would love to be in the room during just hearing them talk. So I'm sure with that book, I'm sure this is a fantastic book. We gotta read it.
Yeah, we have to read that, because I want to be highly effective. I feel like there's a difference to just doing stuff, but then being highly effective. Like that's 2 very strong words put together. So I'm like, I wouldn't mind falling in that category. All right, number 10.
Number 10 was my foray into finance and starting to understand a little bit about how to get this money together. Money. And that was actually Benjamin Graham's Intelligent Investors. It's a huge book, and it's actually a lot more technical than I would have started with. And I did not start with it. I actually started with a couple other ones on this list, and we'll get to those in a second. But once I started along the path of financial enlightenment and really understanding how to manage money and how to invest money and how to build wealth, and this was a book that was just interesting to read and understand how much I didn't know.
Yeah, I feel like that's the thing with social media, is that people see somebody and think that they're like an expert, a product expert or a subject matter expert, and they don't even really know. So it's like, you have to pick up a book and educate yourself if you do not know. Do not just rely on saving posts from Instagram to educate you about an entire industry or like an entire process of something. That's not gonna cut it. Dive into one of these books. It's easier when you're not forced to do it, like for school. So if wanting to invest or budget or save money or make money, spend money, whatever, is something that interests you, it will not hurt you to pick up a book and try and figure it out.
Number 11 on the list is a book called Good to Great. It's basically a book about why some companies succeed beyond all imagination and why some companies don't, and why most companies don't reach the goals of the company. And this was a really good book. It did a deep dive into some really companies that necessarily you wouldn't think about as really well run. But when you read this book and they dive in and you just see the stories of the company, like Walgreens.
So what's one thing that you remember from the book where it said why a business didn't succeed? Like, what's one of the things?
Well, I think really what it comes down to with this book is being able to have a forecast of the strategic risks of your industry. You know, a lot of businesses, they get into doing what they do and they do it well, and like, hey, this is what we do.
Don't worry about if they don't do it.
You know, without the foresight of, hey, what things could potentially go wrong, or what opportunities do we need to take advantage of now? Like, a lot of businesses weren't prepared to take advantage of the internet when it came along.
Yeah.
And Barnes and Nobles and Amazon was a prime example of the two competitors, one who had a great brick and mortar footprint and one who had none at all.
Yeah.
And the competition, and you see how it's played out between them. I mean, Amazon, not to say Barnes and Nobles isn't a successful company. It's good, but Amazon is great.
Yeah.
And that's kind of this book.
Yeah. Sorry, Barnes. Hey, Amazon.
Hey, but don't get me, I love Barnes and Nobles. So we was in there yesterday. Yeah. I just can't walk through an Amazon, no.
Look, okay. Oh my gosh. Time for one of my favorites, number 12.
Well, you introduce it then.
Okay, I will introduce number 12 because my dad tried to get me to read this book when I was in high school.
Samesies.
Okay, our dad is really big on reading and just education as it stands, but he would only ask a couple times. Now, he's not gonna force you. If you just wanna miss out on that, you wanna miss out on it. And so when I saw the title of the book, I was like, this doesn't even pertain to me. Why would I read this? Like, get out of here, I gotta go. So I didn't read it. And then I got around to being like in my late 20s or like mid 20s, and I was just like, let me read that book real quick. Read the book, changed my life. And now it is a required reading for my man.
For the man, for the kids, for
everybody.
Everybody.
Really everybody that I'm surrounded with. Number 12 is Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Absolutely.
Do yourself a favor and read the book so you can figure out if you're a rich dad or a poor dad.
when I tell you that there are a couple books that really sparked my journey to financial literacy, this was the very first one. Was Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's such a well-told story. It's told in such a friendly way that anybody can absorb the story. But really, it just highlights one of those things that again highlights how much we don't know about managing money.
All the way down to how we're wired, how to manage money, and so
put your money in a savings account.
Or like stay at that 9 to 5 for 50 years and never go anywhere else. And it's just like
donate to your 401k.
Oh my gosh, read the book. I know another thing that turned me off about Rich Dad Poor Dad is that I thought it was gonna be about numbers, and I thought it was gonna be very, very, very finance based, but it's not. It's like he said, it's a really, really well told story, and it just really opens your mind, and you're like, like that. I caught myself doing that so many times reading that book. So Rich Dad Poor Dad is really like #1 on this list. We just have it at number 12 because of how we listed this shit out.
Pretty much.
All right, so get that, period. Number 13.
Number 13 is a book that I actually just finished here recently, and it's called The Go-Giver. You know, the play on the words go-getter. This is The Go-Giver, and this was a really interesting book. It was recommended to me by a colleague at work. And one of the things about this colleague that I really admire and I really appreciate is the fact that whenever I call him for anything, and he's very well paid, he's very high up in the company. Whenever I call him for anything, whenever I have a question, whenever I have anything at all, he's more than happy to take time to spend it with me and answer my questions, or even have me fly out and observe him to Phoenix. So he recommended this book, and that's exactly what this book is about, is really the value of giving. Being able to switch your mind frame up from always wanting to receive, and the value of switching to becoming a go-giver, and
I love that.
How it can impact your life. So
I love that. Give.
Give. It's better to give than to receive.
Well,
it's more fulfilling.
Well,
okay. Read the book.
All right, number 14.
Number 14 is a book called Talk Like Ted. And if you've ever heard of a TED Talk, that's
my TED.
This book is actually a breakdown, I believe it was, of the top 9 TED Talks, just period. Yeah. And some of the skills that the speakers, whoever delivered the TED Talks, the skills that they use and implemented to make them the best ever. And this was a book that I went after when I was really looking to develop a specific skill. I wanted to improve my public speaking. I wanted to improve how I expressed myself. Well, really for a business environment, but all around. Honestly, all around. So this was just one that I wanted to pick up and see what gems I could get. And I thought there were some really good ones in there. So
yeah. That's good. Coming from a person that doesn't really like public speaking.
I don't. And she's fantastic at it. Like, fantastic. If I had her bones, like, oh my gosh.
As much as I am comfortable with public speaking, I'm always down to like sharpen a skill set. And so if there are tips or tricks or things that I can adopt to become a better public speaker, I'm so open for that. Because I love to public speak, but like, I want to be one of those speakers where somebody remembers me years later where they're like, oh, that one speech I heard, and she had that one funny line, and it just resonated, because I have that with my college graduation speech. He dropped a couple gems, one of which was fail fast and fail soon. And so I think about that every time. I'm like, should I do this? Oh, if I fail, I might as well fail fast, fail soon. So it's like, I want to be a public speaker that impacts people and touch people like that. So
gotcha. Nice.
Yes.
Number 15 on the list is called The 48 Laws of Power. And I've got an interesting review for this one, just because of the fact that it is so highly recommended.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of people talk about that.
I saw somebody doing a TikTok the other day, and the book they had laying on the floor was 48 Laws of Power. Like, everybody in this. I thought the book was good. It wasn't as impactful for me as some of the other books on the list, but I'll say that specifically because of the tone. I felt like it was a little bit more loose tone in a book that I'm used to dealing with, but there absolutely was some great gems in the book, and because it's so highly recommended, I'm still gonna put it on the list. Yeah,
I need to tap into that one, because I've heard mixed reviews in that way. Like, all of the reviews overarching have been that it's a very impactful book. It helps you kind of think and move and process things different. I'll check it out. It looks a little bit like a thesaurus to me, so I don't know. But number 16.
That one looks like a thesaurus. This one's gonna look like a dictionary. This is a huge book, but well, not huge. I think the biggest one was Intelligent Investor. Oh well, no, the biggest one's coming up next. Yeah. But this book is a pretty lengthy read, but it was really fantastic in terms of understanding just behavioral science. Number 16 is called Thinking Fast and Slow. And basically, I'd say the premise of this book is around the thought that our brain we have two different brains. We've got a right brain and a left brain. And one of those brains is more accustomed to doing kind of routine tasks that we don't have to think about. You know, when you're driving down the road and all of a sudden it's 10 minutes gone by and you realize I haven't been focusing on driving. Like, what's been going on? That's one of your brains taking over, and that's that brain that's used to doing automatic tasks. That's the majority of the work that we do is in that brain. Yeah. I don't remember what the term was, but let's call it the right brain, left brain, whatever it is. That's the one that's really for critical thinking. And if you kind of understand how and when the different brains are engaged, you can maximize your efficiency just as a person. So great behavioral science book.
I don't know if this ties in any way, but I know that when I was doing some just research on making decisions, they spoke a lot about like the time it takes to make a decision and which decisions you take your time with and which ones you kind of just go with.
I believe that's right in line with that. Because some stuff's automatic for you.
And some stuff should be, but it takes longer and then you turn into a waste of time. Okay. And I've found that lately I've been making decisions quicker. Not to say that I don't think them through or I don't like weigh my options, but I just don't spend too much time on the back and the forth. Like I make a decision, and I heard that like really successful and wealthy people make quick decisions.
You're becoming more efficient with whichever brain it is.
Because I used to be back and forth like, should I? Well, no. Well, I'm gonna do it. No, I'm not.
Maybe that's a symptom of getting older, because I feel like I'm the same way. Like now I don't go back and forth. There's that one and we're gonna do it. Let's go.
Either way, up next, number 17.
Number 17, now this is what I believe to be the longest book on the list, and it's another autobiography by our former president, Barack Obama.
Who is actually still my current president and my forever president. Thank you very much.
Forever president, that's correct, Barack Obama, and this one is called A Promised Land. Great book. It's as long as it should have been. Maybe it should have been a little bit longer. There's a couple things I thought he could have went into a little more detail about, but just in terms of seeing into the mind of a president and the first black president and the unique experiences he had to go through and deal with, it was eye-opening. It was fantastic.
10 out of 10. I'll have to check that out.
There is one note I had about The Promised Land, and because he dove into so many different aspects of his presidency, I felt like he talked a lot about foreign policy and just the different reasons that we made the decisions we made overseas. There's a couple things I would have liked to hear him talk about more specifically that happened domestically, but overall, it was a great read.
Cool. Yeah. Number 18.
That's on you. You remember number 18. I don't remember number 18.
I remember number 18 again because of my dad. This was not gonna say a required reading, but a suggested reading from him when we were very young. And it is called Who Moved My Cheese?
I remember the title.
I remember the cover. Like I remember how it looked.
Yep.
And it was always laying around the house. And I was just like, why wasn't my name a damn book, Who Moved My Cheese? What does this have to do with cheese? Is it a cookbook? But it was very much so not a cookbook. I think it was just good because that book, without giving away like the meaning, Who Moved My Cheese, it is somewhat very literal in the sense that it is about moving the cheese, but I think it's about perseverance and pivoting and just figuring it out. Even if the plans change, the goal still remains the same, but your plan can definitely change and the route that you take to get to that goal can change, but don't necessarily give up on finding the cheese. You know, if you run into a wall or something, if you happen to be a mouse in a little trap, I don't know. Anyway, definitely a good read. Taught me a little bit more about pivoting and not really giving up on myself. So
awesome.
Number 19, this is all you.
Oh, number 19 was another fun read, a great told story by a gentleman named Chris Voss, and it's called Never Split the Difference. I'll just give you a brief overview. Chris Voss is actually an FBI hostage negotiator.
I love that for him.
Yeah, man, it's got some crazy stories in there, but pretty much in his position, he often finds himself where he's in negotiations that he can't lose.
I
can't lose this negotiation or somebody's gonna die. A bomb's gonna go off, or somebody's life is on the line. And the FBI has actually come through years and years of hostage negotiations, kind of unlocked the key to successful negotiations. And the book really goes through it in detail. I don't want to spoil any of it for you, but it was a fantastic read, fun read, very well told stories. You'll be engaged the entire time.
You'll be engaged the entire time.
Now, all of these books, but I'm not gonna give you anything boring.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand just how much negotiation they have to do in life. Mm-hmm. You almost have to negotiate some shit every day.
Every day.
You might have to negotiate with your kids, your man, your boss, your friends.
Negotiate a new salary. Negotiate anything.
Like if there is a manual that helps guide you through winning a negotiation as if you have no choice but to win it, I would read it personally if that was, so I'm gonna, because I haven't read it yet. Number 20.
Number 20 was a book I read probably about 6 months back called Marathon Don't Stop, The Life and Times of Nipsey Hussle. Rest in peace. Great book. You know, I already had a huge respect for Nipsey Hussle just from what I've been able to witness in his life and just the things that I've seen, his interviews, so on and so forth. This book really gave you such a much deeper perspective into his upbringing, into who the person really was behind Nipsey Hussle. And it was eye-opening, it was enlightening, and man, it was damn near emotional. It was a great book to read.
Yeah, and this came out obviously after his passing.
I believe it did, yes. It's a biography. It was written about him. It was not. I would have loved to see it written in his own words, but yeah, this was the second best thing.
Yeah. All money in.
All money in. No money out.
All right. Last but not least, number 21.
Oh man, this might have been the book I had the most fun reading all 2022. And I actually pre-ordered this book. I was one of the first ones to get it, I'm proud to say. I was super excited to read it, and it did not disappoint. And that was the autobiography of Will Smith called Will. For those who don't know me, Will has been he's been an idol of mine for a long time. Back to Fresh Prince. I mean, I used to idolize, imitate Will Smith and the Fresh Prince, and going through and seeing how vulnerable he was in this book, and seeing the vulnerability, the honesty, and it made me have just that much more respect for him as a man, just that much respect for him as an artist, as a competitor, as a father. As a person, I believe he's a great role model. Missteps aside, he's a person that I believe we all can learn a lot from.
So how did you feel about the slap?
I was disappointed in the slap.
Were you?
I was disappointed in the slap. I'm a big fan of Will. I'm also a big fan of Chris Rock too. And I was disappointed in that because I felt like on the prime stage or not, they're both truly highly respected men, and there's a much better way we could have figured that out. We know how to resort to violence. We got that down. But I also understand, trust me, as a hooper who's been ejected from his fair share of games, I know that emotions can take over. So while I was disappointed, did that make me not be a fan anymore? No, I just, disappointed, but they'll live, they'll get through it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, but I do want to check out the book. I love the cover art.
Oh man, it's fantastic. I want to get mine signed one day. I'm gonna have to run up somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd be down. Well, that concludes the 21 book suggestions from my older brother.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I hope you guys find some of these books valuable and interesting, entertaining, and I hope they help in some positive way in your life. If you have any book suggestions for us, because we are on our, we're heavy on our reading.
Trying to get our libraries ready,
okay.
Man. Rip the Band-Aid. Come on now.
Okay, because
I pick up a book, man.
Yeah.
You done watched 72 hours of Netflix this week. Like, you good. You should see your activity usage on Netflix.
No, for real.
There's a reason they don't show you that.
At least listen to the book. Like, there's a happy medium now. You don't have to physically sit there and chapter flip the pages. Definitely tap into some reading. It can have a tremendous effect on your reality. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, bye. See you later. leader? Oh, I wish we had some books. That could be our thumbnail.
Well, I have one.